And our number one story, the right-wing chorus ripping the president for trying to bring the Olympics back to America. It has been joined now by the House Minority Leader, and no Republican seems to remember that the one day this president is devoting to the effort kind of pales in comparison to the 4 days the last president spent attending the Olympics in China as a freaking fan. This afternoon, the First Lady joined Oprah Winfrey on the ground in Denmark in advance of Friday's vote. The president will leave for Copenhagen tomorrow night. He'll speak to the IOC the following morning and right afterwards immediately return. President Bush, you'll recall, took in the last Olympic Games in China last year, leading a country fighting 2 wars on the brink of economic collapse. He found time, 4 days of it, to enjoy the Beijing Games and spank the volleyball players. Still, the outrage that our president would spend less than 24 hours trying to bring the Olympics and an economic boon home to the U.S. has been equally laughable and predictable.
President Obama is heading to Denmark this week to help sway the International Olympic Committee. Vancouver lost, how much was it? They lost $1 billion when they had the Olympics. How is a city of Chicago in Illinois that is broke going to benefit?
The opening ceremonies for the Vancouver Olympics are on February 12th, 2010. They can't have lost or made anything because it hasn't happened yet, Biff. Then there are the official Republican mouthpieces. Michael Steele in a conference call with reporters yesterday.
The goal should be creating, not job opportunities 7 years from now, but job opportunities today. And if the priority is the Olympics in 7 years, okay, then tell the nation that's the priority and that's what we should be focused on, because we'll create jobs then and we won't worry about it between now and 2016.
Yeah, see, you'd have jobs now building stuff for 7 years from now, Mike. They don't put up the Olympics facilities overnight like a circus tent. And this morning, House Minority Leader Boehner picked up on the anti-Olympic stupidity.
He's the president of the United States, not the mayor of Chicago. And the problems we have here at home affect all Americans, and that's where his attention ought to be.
Oh, good. You know who's who now. I'm joined again by Robert Reich, Secretary of Labor under President Clinton, author of Supercapitalism, now out in paperback, and Professor of Public Policy at the University of California at Berkeley, from which venue he joins us. Thank you for your time tonight, sir.
Good evening, Keith.
You want to briefly explain that complex economic principle that argues against Mr. Steele's belief that the Olympics starting in the summer of 2016 only means jobs start in the summer of 2016?
Well, it's not terribly complicated. What we know from previous Olympics like 1996 in Atlanta or Salt Lake City, we know that almost immediately after the Olympic decision is made, there are jobs, and a lot of jobs. Construction and infrastructure and sales and marketing, white-collar, blue-collar jobs. This is a jobs machine. Starts right away.
Sports and economic analysis are always dangerous things to mix, especially when it comes to pro sports. But do you think the games in Chicago would boost the economy, or would it cost the U.S. money?
Well, undoubtedly, boosting the economy is what we've seen in previous Olympics. In fact, an independent study done by the dean of the business school at Cal State, California State in Sacramento, found about $22.5 billion of net new economic activity in the Chicago area, but also the entire Great Lakes area from the Olympics. So that's a big amount of money.
The White House press secretary, Mr. Gibbs, was asked about Mr. Steele's comments, and he responded with his own question. Who is he rooting for? Was the White House successful in framing this? I mean, if the Republicans criticize the trip, they're in fact rooting against America?
Well, not only rooting against America, Keith, but I think rooting against American workers. I mean, we're talking here about jobs at a time when American workers really need jobs, and I'm afraid at least some Republicans are maybe a little bit insensitive to that fact.
August of last year, the economy was already giving its gurgles as it approached the drain, if it hadn't already begun to circle it. We had wars in 2 countries, and yet President Bush spent 4 days in China opening ceremonies and, so to speak, backslapping the athletes. Double standard between that situation and the current one?
Well, I think there's a little bit of a double standard. I mean, this is a cheap shot by Republicans, Keith. I mean, the fact of the matter is, I understand that the president is going to spend maybe 18 hours in total. It's not a pleasure trip, and believe it or not, you can get work done on Air Force One there and back.
Mitt Romney made his political career after helping turn around the 2002 Olympics at Salt Lake City, the Winter Games. Are the Republicans actually worried in here that this might be a success story, sort of taking their turf, or at least Romney's turf, away from them?
Well, I think they have more things to worry about. I mean, the Just Say No party with regard to health care and the environment, they are already seeing their polls dropping. And when their major spokespeople are people like Glenn Beck and Rush Limbaugh and Sarah Palin, well, you know that they are in trouble. It's not just the Olympics.
And it's a panoply of things, but the Olympic one I like best of all because it looks like they forgot recent history, so it has that element to it as well. Robert Reich, the former Labor Secretary, author of Supercapitalism, as we said, out in paperback now. Great luck with it, and great thanks for your time tonight.
Thanks, Keith.